Three Indian businesses whose story I'm going to discuss today. These are three completely different businesses started in different eras, catering to different type of customers, building entirely different products. This is the story, or you can say in some cases biographies or autobiographies of the person who started this business has made them successful. Lot of learnings, lot of new things to be discovered in these books. Keep watching. Hello everyone, welcome once again to Books Wale Bhaiya. I'm Abhishek. As I just mentioned, I'll talk about three different businesses and their success stories or their biographies or autobiographies. And I'll start with the one called Bhujia Barons, How Haldiram Built a 5,000 crore rupee empire by Pavitra Kumar. So this book talks about Haldirams. Well, who doesn't know about Haldiram, at least in India? And in fact, as this book tells, it will be wrong to say that Haldirams is just an Indian company. It is one of the most well-recognized Indian brands globally with operations in more than about 60 countries. While many of us think of Haldiram in terms of its sweets as well as its various restaurants which are there in many cities, Haldiram's at heart is still a Bhujia company, and no wonder the name of the book is itself Bhujia Barons. So Bhujia is all where it started in a dusty town in Bikaner several decades back when Ganga Bhishan Agarwal, commonly known as Haldiram, decided to start the business of selling bhujia. It was homemade bhujia and he used to sell it in paper bags, in fact not even paper bags in the sense as we understand them today. He used to just fold it in newspapers or other papers and sell it to people. His business gained and over decades by taking various decisions, by moving into new eras, by moving into new avenues, they built what Haldiram is known as today. And today the brand Haldiram gets more revenue than Domino's and McDonald's combined. However, while the Haldiram story is indeed a rags to riches story, starting from a small town in Bikaner, selling just only homemade bhujia to building what you can call a large food empire, this story is not without family issues, legal troubles, and whatnot. So this is a story after spending few pages on the history of Haldirams in the town of Bikaner. It tells you a lot about the various legal issues the families faced, which is either disputes between the family members, dispute over the use of the brand name, how the business got partitioned into the various brothers. And today, as this book tells us, we have actually three Haldirams businesses, all separate, one based in Delhi, one based in Bikaner, and one based in West Bengal. Yes, these are the same family, but they are selling it under different brand names with some legal issues there, and they are still going on. In fact, sadly, this is also a story of one of the persons of the family who actually was imprisoned on account of murder charges when he murdered someone who did not leave his land where Haldirams wanted to open their restaurant. It's more like a family drama, courtroom battle, and this book tells you about practically everything which is there about Haldirams. Please keep in mind that this is not a publicly listed company, so information about such businesses tend to be typically less than those companies whose shares are listed. Nonetheless, if you want to read a book which tells you about traditional Indian or Marwadi ways of doing business and how they started from absolutely from scratch with no education in business or no background or no even information about product and all, how this business grew to become what we know today as Haldirams. I think this is a business book you will definitely find a little different from other business book, as it tells you about a business about which very less is known, and the way of doing business, as you realize, is typically different from what we find in other companies, especially the multinational corporations. All in all, if you're looking for an interesting business read and want to know about a different kind of business run by different people, well, this is the book. The next book I'm going to talk about is Havells, The Untold Story of Kimat Rai Gupta, authored by his son Anil Rai Gupta. Havells, once again, is a very famous brand when it comes to electrical equipment. They have made quite a name for themselves in the highly competitive Indian market as well as globally. It's one of the biggest electrical brands in the world. So this is the untold story of Kimat Rai Gupta ji, the founder of Havells, or QRG as he was fondly known as. This is a book, you can say it's a business book as well as it's a biography. It's like a tribute by a son to his father. And when you talk of Havells, we basically are talking about QRG as well, because he's the one who built it absolutely from scratch. I read this book and I call this book a kind of mini MBA. This is a book about a business which was built from scratch, but this is also a book which tells you about the man QRG who started from a shopkeeper in Bhagirath Place in Delhi's Chandni Chowk market, who started with just about 10,000 rupees, and he built an empire worth 17,000 crores. I repeat, he started with 10,000 and built a business empire worth 17,000 crores. This is the story of a man who did not have any formal education in engineering, yet he built one of the biggest engineering electrical companies of the world. This is the story about a man who did not have an MBA, yet he was excellent when it came to people management. This was about a man who did not study mergers and acquisitions in a business school, and yet he acquired many companies in his lifetime. This is the story of a man who, while had no formal education in law, resolved a lot of disputes on his own, and that too without taking any legal help. In fact, as Anil Rai, the son of QRG, mentions, it was not the nature of his father to get into legal disputes, and as he mentions a number of times, he believed in and he actually did resolve many of the disputes over a glass of lassi. That's what the kind of man QRG was. Reading this book actually fills you with a lot of respect for the person QRG was as a successful businessman, and as I mentioned, a lot of his qualities which were attained without any kind of formal education. And as I've read a lot of business books these days, I've realized that legal issues especially are a part and parcel of running any business, but we're talking about a man who built an empire without getting at all into any kind of legal issues or boardroom battles or disputes with lawyers, with the families, or any such thing. Interestingly, QRG built this empire along with battling poor health. As Anil Rai mentioned, that his father fought many health issues at the age of from 40 to 50 or something like that. He started developing several health issues. Yet, luckily, he lived a long and a peaceful life and was working till the very end. As I said at the beginning, this is what I call a mini MBA, and read how QRG applied his business instinct, his business logic to get rid of many problems, to solve many issues. As one of the things which I noted is that in many of the acquisitions which the company made, the QRG had to pay eventually a bit higher price than what was usually asked for. While some may say that no, it's not the right thing to do, you paying up actually more than what we earlier talked about. QRG had this intellect, had the sense to understand what value does this acquisition hold for me, and these acquisitions helped him in strengthening his brand, which I would say was a very strong business sense. Reading this book made me realize, that one of the biggest things about running a successful business is actually common sense, which unfortunately is not that common. But here is one glaring example of what common sense and remaining modest and ensuring that you want to resolve problems rather than getting into big and long disputes can actually achieve. I personally say I learned a lot from this book, and out of the three, with due respect to all the authors and all the various businesses, out of these three, this is a book I like the most. Well, so we talked about food business, restaurants, bhujia, we talked about electrical appliances when you talk about Havells, and here comes the third and final book of today, The Ambuja Story by Narottam Sekhsaria ji. Narottam Sekhsaria ji is the founder chairman of Ambuja Cements, one of the biggest cement companies in India. This is the story written by Narottam ji himself, who does not have a stake in Ambuja Cements now, as we'll get to know in this session why he is not holding his stake in Ambuja now. But this is again a story which started from scratch. However, there's one difference. Narottam ji was already running his traditional family business of cotton trading and was doing reasonably well there. But this man was ambitious and he wanted to do something completely on his own, and he wanted to become a big industrialist. As he said, in cotton, while he was doing well, he was still known as a trader and he wanted to start something of his own. So he moved into a business of cement, but interestingly, he was an absolute blank slate when it came to business. As he himself mentions, that I had absolutely no idea about what a cement plant looks like. I had no idea what limestone deposit is, which is the key component in making business. I never negotiated any kind of agreement with the government and all, but here in a few days I was supposed to talk to the Gujarat government for starting a cement plant. So this man with a lot of ambition, though with absolutely no knowledge when he started, with a lot of ambition, he built what is today known as Ambuja Cement, was not only one of the biggest companies, but due to his focus on innovation, it is also one of the cleanest cement companies, as he says, in terms of their control over pollution and other factors. And please keep in mind that he started his business in an era wherein a lot of businesses were heavily regulated and controlled by the government, wherein in fact the quantity of cement you had to make also depended a lot on the government regulations. So he built that business from scratch in that era, and it's over time that the cement sector got deregulated. Interestingly, as the author mentions, that came with its own set of challenges, because there were a lot many producers producing cement then, and cement prices were depressed for a large amount of time. He made several acquisitions, some of them worked, some of them actually did not work. It is this 25-year journey which he describes, and other than his business, he also spent some time talking about his illness. He was diagnosed with oral cancer and he underwent a number of surgeries. However, while that did not affect his spirit, his desire to grow, but there came a time when he realized that probably he should, call it a day and get into something else. He's now running a family office which is into investing into various companies, but he has eventually sold his stake. A very fascinating story which tells you that what ambition can lead to. You are already doing very well in your current business. You have absolutely no need or no reason to get into an uncharted territory. But there are people, after successful entrepreneurs, as we say, they have something deep inside them which makes them so successful. So if you really want to know about a person who already had things going for him and yet he moved into something unknown and uncharted, do read this book. Well, here we are. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you think I did a good job, please click on the like button. Subscribe to my channel for more updates. Write to me on readwithyeti@gmail.com and tell me what other kind of books you want me to review. Thank you.